When the ancient Greek civilization first journeyed to Egypt and laid witness to the ancient culture's methods of construction, megalithic structures, sprawling cities, and seemingly advanced technologies, along with the civilization's incredible strides in mathematics and philosophy, not only were they completely intrigued by this, but they quickly worked to try to classify what they saw and provided it with the names we know today. When the ancient Greeks came across the large stone structure that depicted what they presumed to be a lion with the face of a man, reminding the Greeks of the stories of the Sphinx recorded in the struggle of Oedipus, they quickly named the structure the Sphinx as an ode to their own culture seen in the Egyptian culture. However, outside of this original encounter, nothing else was known surrounding the strange structure. This, in turn, has caused various discoveries to be made about the structure and various theories to be put forward in order to explain the origins of the structure. Is there evidence of water erosion? During the early 1950s, French Egyptologist R.A. Schwaller de Lubitz visited the Great Sphinx enclosure and remarked that there was a substantial amount of water erosion across the structure, believing that perhaps the structure had been submerged at one point in time and had not been significantly weathered by the wind as previous theories had claimed. Shortly after this claim, Schwaller was labelled a mystic and slandered by countless other archaeologists, who believed that Schwaller was making up the claim to appeal to a fringe group of theorists at the time. Despite these personal attacks, alternative Egyptologist and author John Anthony West sought out the opinion of the Associate Professor of Natural Sciences at the College of General Studies at Boston University, a geologist by the name of Robert M. Schoch, back in 1989. Robert M. Schoch then spent a significant amount of time investigating the enclosure's geology and came to the conclusion that the main type of weathering that was evident on the Sphinx's enclosure walls were caused by significant amounts of water damage and not that of natural wind and sand degradation previously theorized. Interestingly, Robert Schoch also found that the weathering was consistent with blocks found at the valley temples, leading Schoch to claim the following statement. Therefore, if the granite facing is covering deeply weathered limestone, the original limestone structures must predate by a considerable degree the granite facing. Obviously, if the limestone cores originating from the Sphinx ditch of the temples predate the granite ashlars, granite facings, and the granite ashlars are attributable to the Khafre of the 4th dynasty, then the Great Sphinx was built prior to the reign of Khafre. Given the fact that the Egyptian government is keen to maintain the history that the ancient Egyptian civilization was responsible for the megalithic structures and not some unknown civilization that predates their culture, it would explain why efforts had been made to cover up the findings over the decades. Today, the water erosion hypothesis is still shunned by the Egyptological community. There's also been a lot of conversation about the secret tunnels under the Great Sphinx. Back in 1987, a Japanese research team from Tokyo's Waseda University began an extensive underground survey of the regions surrounding the Great Sphinx statue, utilizing groundbreaking technology at the time known as the electromagnetic sounding survey radar, in an attempt to better image the sunken regions of the Sphinx statue. Under the direction of lead researcher Sakuji Yoshimura, the team got some of the most accurate 3D rendered images of the statue ever seen, with the strange revelation that no one had seen coming. For some unknown reason, the Japanese survey team discovered an extensive system of cavities and tunnels inside and underneath the Great Sphinx monolith that were believed to have been previously undiscovered. According to the team, south of the Sphinx was a hollow tunnel believed to have been 2.5 meters wide and 3 meters tall, connecting two chambers, a small and large chamber that appears to connect to additional tunnels that stretched north, south, and southeast of the Sphinx's direction. Portions of shafts were found in unconnected areas beneath the Sphinx, with additional cavities found inside the structure of the Sphinx and beside the body of the Sphinx, unconnected to the tunnels beneath the monolith. None of these findings have been pursued after the survey, with many denying the existence of the tunnels and shafts despite the mountains of clear imaging evidence gathered under the direction of lead researchers. Another question that's been put forward is the Sphinx really a Sphinx? Originally a theory put forward by the groundbreaking author Robert Temple, there appeared to be overwhelming evidence that the Sphinx we know today was actually an attempt made by a pharaoh of the 4th dynasty to do nothing more than to claim the works of those before him. Evidence for this can be found when analysing the head-to-body ratio of the large Sphinx statue. The head on the Sphinx is so small compared to the rest of its body that researchers had often believed, upon first sight, that it could have been grinded down from a much more massive structure. The second piece of evidence provided by the hieroglyphics located at the temple of Temtufa that outline in great detail that the original god of ancient Giza was Anubis, and the accounts and images of Anubis in his jackal form are drawn all throughout the site in the same pose as of the body of the Sphinx, with no mention of a lion of any kind at that ancient city. Interestingly, this exact same pose was discovered in one of the only tombs of an Egyptian pharaoh ever discovered that had been completely undisturbed since his burial, the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. Within King Tut's tomb is a shrine to Anubis that demonstrates an exact scale of the Sphinx statue, but with the head of a jackal to represent Anubis, showing in overwhelming evidence that the original statue of the ancient city of Giza was supposed to be that of a jackal-headed Anubis, and not that of a lion body with a human head. So, where do we get the idea of a human head and a lion body? The truth is, the only reason why the statue is referred to as a sphinx is because of old Greek mythologies, such as those of Oedipus, that talk about a lion with the head of a man called a sphinx, but no such symbol exists in that of ancient Egypt. This means that the hieroglyphic texts that describe the Sphinx with a human head to represent the pharaoh of the 4th dynasty were nothing more than forgeries, and these were by the then pharaoh to take credit for a great statue of which he had not created nor designed. In fact, a pre-dynastic pharaoh gives a great account about providing his royal dog as a grand burial at the site of ancient Giza. In this text, his argument for why he had such a royal burial for what has been speculated to be his guard dog was due to his want and need to have the dog buried before the great god Anubis, not only definitively proving that the Sphinx was originally that of the god Anubis in the jackal form, but also that the structure itself was created during the pre-dynastic times, long before any pharaoh could claim ownership of its creation. So, does the Sphinx predate Egypt? Given the fact that the pharaoh of the 4th dynasty forged the creation of the Sphinx under his name, countless researchers believe that the Sphinx could, in fact, be far older than anyone else has ever realized. In fact, new evidence and research today has found that it could very well be possible that the Sphinx structure itself is far older than supposed Egyptian writings and documents. One of the main reasons for why the Sphinx has been dated its current age of 4,511 years old is not due to carbon dating or other reliable efforts made to accurately measure its date, but rather because of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics and documents that detail that the Sphinx was supposedly created during the reign of Egypt's 4th dynasty. Unfortunately, it was recently discovered that these documents could very well not be legitimate, and that the pharaoh of the 4th dynasty forged them for the sole purpose of taking credit of another past pharaoh's work. A common practice amongst pharaohs to rewrite history and take the honor of a past pharaoh's lifelong efforts. This could very well mean that not only was the creation of the Sphinx older than that of the dynastic reigns of Egypt, but that perhaps the structure is older than the Egyptian civilization themselves. Further evidence of this theory can be found when analysing the recent archaeological finds of strange bones discovered all throughout ancient Egypt. It is well known amongst Egyptologists that the ancient Egyptians treasured animals of all kinds, believing them to be the representation of their gods. It is due to this observation that strange structures and bones from animals all around the world, even from areas previously believed to have not been operating open trade routes, have surfaced all across ancient Egyptian cities. Described as Egyptian zoos, strange hieroglyphics and designs have come forward showing evidence That not only were the early Egyptians capable of owning strange beasts from around the world, but that they possibly possessed an extinct species of woolly mammoth. Dubbed as the world's first zoo, a 6,000-year-old ancient Egyptian cemetery was uncovered filled with the remains of wild animals from all around the world, that should have been unable to collect from the reaches of early man for thousands of years to come. Skeletons of ostriches, crocodiles, leopards, and other exotic animals were found alongside pools of water, large fenced-in cages, and a potential animal hospital filled with removed molars, teeth, claws, and evidence of animal surgeries. Though the importance of animals regarding the Egyptian religion was widely known, the evidence of the global reach of the species available to them, including species long believed to be extinct, has been a mystery that even the most elite of archaeologists and Egyptologists have failed to explain. This is odd though, mostly due to the fact that it is widely believed by historians and archaeologists all around the world that the oldest civilization to exist was merely 10,000 years old. However, evidence in the fossil record shows that the modern-day intelligent human has been around for more than 500,000 years. If this is true, why is it then that the oldest cities don't start appearing until past 10,000 years? It might have to do with the evidence of the extinct animals recorded at Egypt. The woolly mammoth was one of many distinct megafauna that went extinct at around the same time in the fossil record, merely 10,000 years ago. These extinct species included the mastodon, short-faced bear, the giant ground sloth, and many others. In fact, when Charles Darwin first visited the areas near the Galapagos Islands, when he originally discovered the ground sloth bones, they were so fresh that he believed them to still be a living species of megafauna, ultimately proving the recency of their extinction. So why was it then that around 10,000 years ago of all these species went extinct? Partly due to three strange reasons: large fires, a massive flood, and a sudden ice age. The evidence for these three events are widely known by archaeologists and research scientists that found in the fossil record evidence that showed that, all around the Earth, there appeared to be massive fires that were followed by a rapid cooling event that only took about 4 decades, as well as certain events being hit by numerous tsunamis and large flooding. Many experts had originally speculated that perhaps a massive meteorite strike could have caused such a phenomenon, but no large craters supporting the theory had yet been discovered at the time of the original publications. However, recently, a massive crater underneath an ice sheet in Greenland shows a tremendous impact point where a meteor could have hit, generating more than 700 megatons of force. So much force, in fact, that it would have caused a full-on nuclear winter. Any human civilization at the time, regardless of how advanced, would have been completely wiped off the face of the Earth in such a massive meteor strike. All of this happening at not only around the same time as a massive extinction event, but also around the same time the oldest civilizations would have been constructed. Could this be evidence then that perhaps the pyramids at Giza and the Sphinx, as well as many other advancements made in megalithic structures and creations, could actually more accurately have come from the efforts of human beings from before this catastrophic event, and the Egyptians were merely one of many surviving people to pick up where humanity left off? Given the incredible advancements we have made in the past 10,000 years, this could very well mean that the humans before the event could have been significantly more advanced than we are today, and the old stories of gods and kings could very well have just been the technological advancements before humanity had to reset due to such a catastrophic tragedy. But what do you all think of these impossible-to-explain mysteries surrounding the Great Sphinx of Egypt? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.